Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. My name is Liaquat Zaman and this is a crash course on Sarf. Sarf, many of you might know, is the science of morphology. What does that mean? It means it's the science where you deal with verbs mostly. So Sarf is a science where in Arabic language how verbs are conjugated and how verbs are changed, shifted, manipulated, whatever word you want to use for that. So first of all, we look at structures of words when it comes to sarf. It's not like Arabic grammar, nahu. Nahu is where you look at the structure of sentences and the vowels that appear at the end of words. Sarf, on the other hand, is in fact to do with the structure of particular words. And those words are something we're going to be looking at today with an overview. So structures of words is like, for instance, in English, if I was to say the word operation, at the end of operation you have T-I-O-N. And we know in English that this word is something which appears at the end of many words. You can probably think of 5 now. One of them is operation. So operation, words that have T-I-O-N at the end of them signify a particular sort of meaning. Let me give another example. We have the word writing. So writing, words that have ing at the end of them have a particular sort of usage in the language. And also, let's say a word like houses, for instance, you might have this word where you use an S at the end. So all of these are to do with the structure of words, how words are structured, formed, changed, manipulated, like we said earlier. So let's carry on from there then. So we have words in the Arabic language are of 3 types. You have nouns, you have particles, or let's start with, you have verbs, and you have particles. So nouns, verbs, and particles. Nouns are simply any word which has a particular meaning, which is the name of a person or a place. Verbs are words which have meanings but are to do with a particular time. So they occurred either in the past, before, or they're occurring now, or they'll occur in the future. So it's basically actions that are being mentioned to a person. Past, present, future, whichever time zone they occur in, but they are called verbs. Particles, on the other hand, are those words which are not nouns and not verbs. So in sarf, what do we deal with? We mainly deal with verbs. So the verbs you have are basically structured in a particular way. So now there's several factors that we look at when we discuss verbs. So we're going to look at them now. 3 things which are important. One is, who are you talking to? The person. Number 2 is the gender. And number 3 is the number of people. So who are you talking to? You could be talking to one person, 2 second person, or third person. So first person rather, second person, and third person. So first person would be myself. Second person would be you. Third person would be another person who's not in our conversation. So this is the first one, person. Second is gender. You're either using a verb that's being done by a masculine or by a feminine. Right? So you have masculine verbs, you have feminine verbs, and finally the number. How many people are practicing that verb? Or how many people are rather involved in that verb? So it could be one person, it could be 2 people, or it could be 3 or more, right? So let me give you an example. Let's say if I said that you are watching my YouTube channel. So you are one person, and therefore you might be a male, you might be a female, and you are the first person, second person I'm speaking to. So therefore I'll be using a particular sort of verb, a structured verb, for me saying it to you. But if I was to say Zaid is watching my YouTube channel, then Zaid is the third person, he is male, and he is one person. And if I say they all the Muslims are in the mosque, then all the Muslims are praying in the mosque. So therefore Muslims is third person, and it's just general, and it's 3 or more. So you have factors that are involved in when it comes to verbs. So this is what we look at when we study sarf. We look at various factors which can affect a verb. So every verb is basically made from the same root letters. So for instance, let's take the word wrote in English. So imagine every word we want to use for this. So if you want to use this word for a first person or a second person or a third person, we have to make some adjustments. If we want to use it for male and female, we have to make adjustments. If it's for one person doing it, two people doing it, three people doing it, then we have to make adjustments. But the root word is going to still be found inside of this word, right? So let me show you. So maybe you might have to add something to the beginning of the word wrote. Maybe you might have to add something to the end of the word wrote, but you will have to make some slight changes, additions, in order to cater for the three things that we've mentioned above. So for instance, in Arabic, we have the word kataba, which means to write. Now, if we want to say, for instance, like, if we want to say, you all are writing, you all. So you all are a group of people, group of men, let's say, you all are writing. So now what I have to do is I have to cater for this scenario. So I'll have to add to the beginning of the word something, and I'll have to add to the end of the word something as well. So for instance, I add waw and noon, un, right, to the end of the word, and that un actually signifies to me two things. It signifies number of people involved in this verb, and it signifies the gender of the people themselves. So that's the una, and then you have the other side where I add in who am I addressing? Am I addressing myself? Am I talking about myself? Am I addressing the second person, or is it the third person? So by me adding a ta to the beginning of the verb, ta, and then adding at the end of it a waw and noon, this now means that I am referring to a third person, masculine, and it's more than three. Right? So sorry, second person, masculine, and more than three. So taktubuna in that case now means you all are writing. You all are writing. And that's simply because the verb itself, the kataba, is the root word. And then any additions, like a Lego piece, you have Lego pieces. So you attach onto the end of the Lego various pieces to signify if you're talking about one person, two people, three people, male, female, if you're talking about yourself to a second person, or even to a third person. Right? So this is the basics to do with how verbs are structured in Arabic. Now we can actually take this, and in Sarf we actually make a whole list of words based on the past and the present, and it's a list of 14. So we can actually make a list now of 14 going down, and we're going to take the root verb, right, which in this case we're going to be using the word kataba. And like I said to you guys, kataba means to write. So all we're going to be doing is we're going to be making slight adjustments before or maybe after. Sometimes it's just after and you don't touch before, and sometimes it's before and after. So in this case, I'll be showing you how the verbs will change from person to person based upon who you're referring to. So 1, 2, 3, you can write this yourselves as well. So as you can see, kataba, the first one on the list, refers to one person, he. Kataba means he wrote. Kataba, if you add the alif at the end, now that means two people. So you're saying they two wrote. And if you're saying katabu, then that means three people, three men. Katabu. So number 1, 2, and 3 is referring to third person, they. So he wrote, he two wrote, he three wrote. Now katabat means she. So one she wrote, katabat. And then katabata, you add a ta at the end, ta and alif. That means two females, two females. Katabna, it means they. So katabna means they, feminines, plural. And then you have katabta, right? So katabta means you, masculine. Okay, and then, so basically, as you can see, what we're simply doing is we're adding to the end of verbs in the past a certain number of letters or certain letters to signify those three things that we mentioned before. Okay, so those three things, if you remember, were that person, is it first person, second person, third person? Number 2, gender. And number 3, the number. So all these combinations actually work out to 14. Right? You're not going to get any more than this. These are all the 14 that you're going to have to learn for the past ones. And then when you come to the present verbs, you actually use the same process. So you can actually write down kataba all the way down, 14, right? And if you've obviously got a computer, you can just do copy and pasting like I am doing, and you can go all the way down. And then in this present one, what you're going to be using is you're going to be adding to the beginning of the verbs something, and you're going to also be adding to the end of the verbs certain letters. So these letters that you add to the beginning and the ones that you add to the end, right, signify something. So in present verbs, letters that you add to the beginning actually signify the person. In other words, is it first person, second person, third person? And the letters that you add to the end signify the number of people and possibly gender as well. Right? This is generally how it works. So you have the first three with a ya at the beginning, signifying third person male, right? Yaktubu, yaktubani, yaktubuna. And then the other three would signify feminine, right? And then like that, the other three would signify men, the other three women, and then first person like that. So this is just a crash course. This isn't going into detail explaining everything, how it works, just to give you an idea for those people who are unsure about what Sarf is all about, just to give them a bit of a taste of the science of Sarf. So we've taken verbs, and all we've done is add to the beginning a certain letter and the end. Now, which letters do we add to the beginning? This is what you learn in Sarf, right? So you learn this in Sarf, you memorize generally this list. So you'd probably be sitting there and you'd probably just memorize kataba, kataba, katabu, katabat, katabata, katabna, katabta, katabta, the whole 14 of the past and the whole 14 of the present as well. You'd probably have to memorize yaktubu, yaktubani, yaktubuna, taktubu, taktubani, yaktubna, taktubu, taktubani, taktubuna, taktubina, taktubani, taktubna, aktubu, naktubu. Right, so that's the whole list. You memorize that. Once you've got the picture of this in your head, then you can take the next step, and the next step is making slight adjustments where needed. So further adjustments after this would be dependent upon what kind of letters you have, as we're going to see later on. So now, after we've understood this, now we're going to be looking at verbs with regards to certain changes that we make to the letters, right? So verbs, when we have verbs, the verbs themselves are all, or most of them, are made up of 3 root letters. So you have 3 root letters for every verb. What are the 3 root letters? So they can be anything in the Arabic language, right? 3 letters. So imagine you have 1 letter, 2 letters, 3 letters. How many letters are there in the Arabic language? You know, there's 28 letters in the Arabic language. So basically, the first letter can be one of the 28. The second letter can be one of the 28, and the third letter can be one of the 28. So how many combinations possibly can there be in Arabic to have a verb? So they all can be alif, they all can be ba, they all can be ta. One can be alif, one can be ba, one can be ta, one can be alif, 2 can be ba, etc. You got the idea, don't you? So if you know the exact number of combinations, I don't know from the top of my head, but put in the comments below that 28 combination must work out to thousands or possibly even millions. So that's basically the combinations that you can have. Obviously, not all the combinations are used by the Arabs. They only use a number which they require. However, we signify each of the 3 letters with a standard, and that standard is we call the first letter of the 3 letters the fa letter, and we call the second letter the ain letter, and the third letter we call it the lam letter. Right? So we could have called it anything we wanted, but the reason fa'ala, because Arabs, they call a verb a fi'l. So it makes sense if you have 3 verbs that you're going to be calling 3 letters rather. You're going to be calling each letter by the relevant letter in the word fi'l. So fi'l means verb. So just the first letter we'll call it fa, second for ain, and third lam. Just for convenience purposes, we could have used any letter we wanted. So we're always going to be saying that. If I say to you, what is the ain letter of this word, and you just point out to me basically the second letter. What is the lam letter? You say the third letter. What is the fa letter? It's the first letter. Now, when we have this kind of a verb, this scenario, right, what we basically do here is we look at the types of letters that can fall in one of these 3, right? So for example, like over here, as you can see, I've written the verb taktubuna. So over here, if I say to you, what is the fa letter? You say kaf. What is the ain letter? You say ta. And what is the ba letter? You say, the lam letter, you say ba, right? So the ta at the beginning is actually not one of the 3 letters, nor is the waw and the noon one of the 3 letters. So this is why sometimes it becomes a bit tricky when you have a long verb and you're asked to identify the fa, ain, lam letters. So you might have to know a bit of sarf from before to be able to identify this, especially if you want to be able to use an Arabic dictionary. This is crucial. You need to know about this 3 letters that a word is made up of. The ones in red, I've highlighted in red, are actually extra letters. You call them zawaid or zaida, extra letters that are not needed in a verb, that can be shifted around. But the 3 root letters are the ones that are crucial components to verbs, right? So this is the basic structure of the fa'ala. So if we look at the past list, the present list, you can actually have a go at trying to identify which letters in these 2 lists are extra letters and which ones are not. So basically all the words that are written in black are root letters, fa, ain, lams, and all the ones written in another color are extra letters, zaida letters. Thank you very much guys for watching this video, and again thank you to all my patrons as well for all your support. Jazakumullah khair, may Allah reward you immensely. If you guys want to become a patron, then links in the description below. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.